strong in this one.
Hello everyone and welcome to Geekonomy channel. I'm your detective host Igor, and this video was supposed to be released yesterday, but like many of us, I spent the whole day trying to understand how to decipher this code. And unfortunately I wasn't 100% successful, but as usual I'm pretty confident I made a very interesting video for you. This is not a recap. I'm not just gonna go chronologically on all of the events of the episode and tell you, did you notice there was a fight on the stairwell? And by the way, Bernard has a plan. If you didn't notice, you either didn't watch the episode or you watched with your ass. In both those cases, my video is probably not for you. But if you have watched the episode and you're still interested, if there are some details that maybe you've missed, then you're in the right place. We're gonna discuss some symbols, some motivations, and of course in the end of this video we're gonna talk about this code. So before we begin, as usual, I want to thank everyone who supports me on Patreon. Your donations, your financial help is actually what makes this channel possible. And I'm so happy to use this opportunity to also welcome a new motivator, Diana A. Thank you so much for joining this small community. Now let's dive in. Just like with the previous video on Silo, I want to start with graffiti. I want to start with some symbols. Those are more Easter eggs than just some kind of a clues that help us to understand this world and this story, but it's still very interesting. I enjoy those details. I mean, someone put some thought and effort behind every small detail in this TV show, and if I like it, I share it. So if you notice here on the lower levels, 129 is one of the lowest levels, cleaning is already not acceptable. Those are the levels of the rebellion, and one of the biggest control tools for, silos management is of course cleaning. This is the biggest punishment. If you are doing something wrong, you're gonna be sent to clean. So this is not something that's gonna work anymore on those levels. We can see here another number 1K, number 1000. This one I have honestly no clue what it's supposed to mean, and by the way, if you're new to those videos, those are the videos where I can admit when I don't know something. And the reason I'm talking to you about this on YouTube, and the reason why comment section is open, is because I really enjoy talking to you about those kind of things. This is why I call it a community of a little bit crazy people that not just watch TV show with popcorn just to pass some times. We are watching with all our hearts, and when we watch with all our hearts, this is usually something that we take close to hearts, and this is why we enjoy every small details and we want to understand everything. And if you're one of those people, you probably have some kind of ideas why it's written number 1K, whatever it means, and I would love to hear your thoughts about it. Sorry, read your thoughts about it. And we're moving forward. We also have like, if you are falling down, you will die, which is obviously a lie. We have seen it already in the previous episode. Sometimes when you fall down, you just like a ninja and you can basically, oh my god, I have this moment in my head.
One day, he pulled a ninja move. It got me to be cool. You know what? Maybe I too could be ninja. I want to be ninja.
I'm sorry, once you hear this song, it will never leave your brain. Anyway, we have the next graffiti here, and the symbol kind of looks like a tattoo that many mechanics have, and the writing is basically "get fucked" or something like this. Maybe it's some kind of a play with words, something like a between, fuck and pact, which was very important obviously for this place. Still can't say that I understand this graffiti 100%. Anyway, since we're talking about tattoos already, this tattoo that Nox have, and also like this tattoo that Juliet have on her right arm, also the symbol that she has on her clothes in the new silo, it kind of looks very similar. Maybe it once again somehow connected to the mechanic level. Maybe it's like some kind of a drawing of a generator or of some kind of like mechanical mechanism, whatever. Like, I'm not very good at that kind of topic, but still, once again, something is similar, and when I notice something, I usually share it with you. Not usually, 100% of the times I share it with you. And yeah, we have also like Solo here is telling Juliet that he saved her because he's happy that antibiotics that he made are actually working. And you know what, I'm once again not a biologist, but small Google search can tell you that making your own antibiotics is a pretty complex process. And I don't know about you, but Solo doesn't strike me as some kind of a, like genius savant who can make antibiotics like MacGyver from, the things that basically spoiled in his fridge. I mean, there's like penicillin, you need a special fungus for it, and you need like a special treatment of it. Obviously, you need some kind of like dispenser system, whether it's pills or maybe it's, I don't know, syringe or something like this. So imagining Solo doing all that by himself, it's completely impossible. So either he is lying, and we know that he lies a lot, or once again maybe this supercomputer that there's obviously in his access in the vault somehow help him to do this. Once again, maybe it's AI, maybe it has some kind of a robotic system there that basically can create some sort of antibiotics if you know what input to use. Just once again, just a thought. So we move into the next topic, and we have Bernard's plan, and he's obviously quoting here Alfred Henry Lewis. And when I say obviously, it's not because I'm so smart, I just googled this and I found this information for you. There's a great website called quoteinvestigated.com, so we see here that the original quote from 1896 was used by Alfred Henry Lewis: "The only barrier between us and anarchy is the last 9 meals we've had." Now, the reason that Bernard is not exactly quoting this message is because this sentence was used many times by many different historical figures. We can see that Alfred Henry Lewis did this again in 1906, and there is like Theo G. Lorman Jr., and there's John J. Fitzgerald, who probably even I heard about this guy. There is Larry Niven and Jerry Pournelle, and there is like some kind of a Robert L. Eddy in 1980. So you can read this. I'm obviously gonna leave you the link under this video in the pinned comment, because once again, I try to share all the information that I find, because fun for me of making these videos is learning new stuff. And when I find something that it's interesting to read, I love to share it with you. Most of you probably would just skip on it, but some of you will find this interesting, as I did, and for me this is great success. So the whole point of Bernard quoting this guy is basically once again showing us that he has a lot of access to information that most of the people in the silo don't, because once again he has the same access as Solo to the vault, and when there is some kind of a supercomputer, they probably have a lot of information. Now, I've seen, by the way, some kind of a theories that Legacy, the one that Bernard mentioned in this episode, in the previous episode to the Judge Meadows, is maybe not people. Maybe it's just some kind of a AI, or maybe just a memory, maybe just, like some kind of a computer data processing tool, whatever it is, but not a living person. I actually hope, the conspiracy theorist in me hopes that there are like 5 evil people sitting there, like Dr. Evil, like, we're gonna kill all the silos. Probably not, but if it happens, I'm gonna be one happy potato. Anyway, we're moving forward, and by the way, don't you hate those sci-fi TV shows? They're so not realistic. I mean, people here are actually willing to give up on their own for the aggressor just because they don't want to get starved. Obviously, nobody wants to get starved, but look at our history. I mean, check our real life history and ask yourself, is there any situation when we as humanity wanted to basically do everything for the aggressor, everything for the dictator, everything for somebody who actually started the conflict, just so we can keep our things that make us comfortable? Oh fuck, yeah. And we also learn about a rat. So there is somebody in the mechanical levels, in the down levels there, who is a rat. Literally and figuratively. Because, I mean, like, you can actually tell some kind of information to the upper levels if you believe in something else, but poisoning the food, so people will actually, like, kids could have eaten this, right? If somebody would have noticed, not just the evil mechanics who are basically not people for, for those who are on the upper levels, but also children could have eaten this. So yeah, this is not a very good person, and if this is the same fucked up end that this guy has, so, this is not a very good end. So yeah, we know that somebody's working, and we've seen this guy, as I told you, something is wrong. Like, he was presented to us as, like just some kind of a guy who has his moral compass. It's not like one of the main characters, but every time we have seen him on the screen, he didn't like strike me like this is a bad guy. he's like evil and he's like worship Satan and he's like watching some kind of a Kardashians TV shows. He's not like evil reincarnated. But once again, you judge the people by their actions, not by their words. And when he gets a message from his auntie from hell that is saying, by the way, armed greaser gang headed up to barricade, also saw a small gang head away from stairs. One of the thugs had a rotary concrete saw. Aunt Doreen. Aunt Doreen, you live on 132. How in the world? I was about to drop another F-bomb, but I'm trying to be, like clean on my videos. But how can you actually be like that when you live around those people there? I mean, don't you see everything that happens right around you? I mean, you can help your nephew there, but still, you also don't necessarily have to have this kind of psychology of completely dehumanizing people who are actually your neighbors. This is a very bad auntie. And yes, he sends a message to Sims and he basically tells him that he trusts his aunt. And if his aunt was actually the one who tried to poison all the food, I wouldn't trust her, man. Your aunt is not a very good people. So yeah, another interesting thing here that kinda was like, shown to us in a rush, but when Sims barge in and he sees Lucas there trying to figure out the cipher, he obviously noticed that he works on the hard drive. There is a package of the red level relic. There is a hard drive completely, like broken and dissolved here on the table. Sims had to be completely blind to not notice this. So I hope this is something that's gonna come back in the next episode and we will see that him knowing that Bernard is actually trying to hide this. Obviously the door was locked. Nobody else but Lucas, who is already, like sentenced to death, knows about this process that they are making together, trying to decipher this code. So now Sims not exactly knows, but he knows that something is happening there, and this is a leverage that he can use. We will see if he will, actually, or maybe it will be his wife. So yeah, we're moving forward. Once again, we have his wife, and she's talking to Bernard, and once again, she's hiding the fact that she helped the fugitive in the previous episode, but Bernard is obviously understand this, and he knows that her husband was the one who actually tried to rile up the crowd, and he wanted, the frontier justice on Knox and Shirley. So there is a conflict between Sims and his wife, and so far I don't understand what is she actually trying to achieve. But there's one thing I can say with 100% confidence: this is how you create an interesting female character. Once again, I myself don't really believe in this difference, like this is a male character, this is a female character. You either an interesting character or you're a boring character. But once again, saying that in 2024, we can still acknowledge that for many decades, the whole female characters in Hollywood was basically a sidekick or a lady in distress or a love interest for the main protagonist. And there were a lot of efforts from Hollywood to create an interesting, complex female characters for the past decade, which I welcome. But most of the times they actually failed because they were trying not to do, like some kind of interesting actually character. They were trying to present us a lot of Mary Sue's. Now, when there is a character who in the first glimpse of her appearing in the show was actually like considered as, once again, like Sims' wife. She is an extension of his character. He is the main character and she is basically his extension. And now we're seeing her actually getting her own agency. We want to know what is her motivation, we want to know what are her plans, and this is just an interesting character that I'm very invested in understanding what the hell is going on with her. So we move into the conversation between her and Sims is a bit of a psychopath here because like when he understands there's gonna be like a trick movement from the rebels, he's actually sending his wife for a very dangerous place, instead of sending like a battalion of people with a lot of guns, which actually are there. His wife there was completely unnecessary. I don't know like what is going on here, if this is something that the creators just didn't think about too much, but he sends her and he's basically explains it by like if the rebellion is gonna break through, our kid is gonna be in danger. I mean, there are like 100 different things you can still do instead of sending your wife, who by the way wasn't a raider for many years already, and it doesn't really matter how much of a muscle memory you have if you're gonna be in the middle of the conflict with very angry mechanics. The risk you're gonna get some is pretty high. So yeah, seems here, I don't understand what is going on here. Anyway, we're moving forward, and once again, this doesn't work like that. I mean, being Sim's wife obviously have some kind of a pull here in this place, but she's basically, like commanding the whole battalion here. And she's not a raider, she is an X1. So this battalion's supposed to have a captain already, somebody who's actually managing the whole process. And she's like there. Once again, I know this is like a movie, this is a TV show, and obviously, more logically for the storytelling part, she's gonna be the one who actually tells them what to do, because once again, she's a character and she has agency. The other one are just extras, they're just to be there. But those small details, sometimes they bug me, and I know that for some people, their suspension of disbelief is obviously doesn't work in that area. But for me, I don't know, it's a bit weird, maybe because I was in the army, so I noticed those kind of things. Anyway, we're moving forward, so once again we can see that, rock and roll, here I am, rock you like a hurricane. This is basically what Nox was trying to say, and they knew it's time for rock and roll, so let's move on. I'm obviously kidding, and what is interesting for me here is basically, as I told you, I was in the army, so I served on the ship. I wasn't a mechanic, but if you go to the mechanical level, those people that work there, they have the highest percentage of lowering hearing, or even like being completely deaf at some point of their life, because for many years they are like surrounded with a very strong noise. And if you go into the mechanical level, you're supposed to put a very big headphones, and if you want to talk to somebody, you use the headphones, you like take it a little bit and you scream into their ear. Or you go to a quieter room, or you use hand signals, which is obviously what's happening here, and obviously it's going to be very useful for a rebellion when you want to hide from the enemy your plans, and so they will not know what is your next step. This is obviously going to be very useful, and those kind of little details I enjoy very much. And this one probably knows how to use the force. I didn't know it works like that, so you can just basically say to the angry mob stop, and they basically stop. I mean, this is something that kind of worked here because they wanted to stop on 120, but this one is like doing stop and trying to stop them with the force. It was just funny for me anyway. But you didn't lose the deputy. Okay, not funny. Anyway, moving on. So we have Paul Billings here, and he's kind of felt like the main guy of the episode. Like, he's the one who went through most of the changes, he's the one who made all of the achievements in this episode. He felt like the driving force of the episode. Even though we have like the rebellion and everything else, he felt like the big guy here, and probably this is something that makes him closer to the role of the leader of the rebellion, just like happened in Silo 17. Here he discovers from Patrick Kennedy, who was a bit sneaky here, trying to hide the secrets, even though he promised he will share them. And I was actually hoping that Paul is gonna go completely medieval on his ass, because you don't behave like that. If you promise something, you should better deliver, especially to someone who saved your freaking life. So he's basically saying to him, I'm gonna call Judge Sims. Nah, man, you should go 24 on him. Anyway, he's saying to him like, this place is so freaking beautiful, and I'm like screaming at the screen right now, and I'm telling him, dude, this is basically Unreal 5, this is just computer graphics, and this is why it looks so pretty amazing. So it's not reality, but once again, it's one step closer to the rebellion going outside. More information that it's all beautiful, green and healthy, and there's a lot of oxygen there, which is not. And this is why we need Juliet completely as fast as possible in this place. So he's also talking about the drugs, and probably there's always a chance that this is, as he thinks, was a lie from Sims, telling him that there are some kind of a drugs that will make you forget the last 22 years, and those drugs are probably bullshit. But once again, if it's not, think about how many possibilities for some conspiracy theories we have here. If you have a magical drug that you can maybe put in the food or in the water for the whole silo population, what can you achieve? You can make 10,000 people forget what actually happened a couple of days ago and tell them that it was a rebellion and everybody won and whatever happened. So there is a lot of still proof that what the rebellion was 140 years ago, and probably it was. But still, if there are drugs that made everyone or some people forget what happened, just like, you know, the fireflies or whatever the firekeepers, the flame keepers, yeah, that's their name from the season 1, they were forgetting things. Maybe this is something that was used on people who started the rebellion, made them forget that they started the rebellion, and this is like how the population of the silo was maintained even after the rebellion, without executing everybody and sending everybody to clean. So yeah, interesting. Now, another interesting thing here about Paul is basically he suddenly doesn't have this tremor anymore in his hand. So is it something psychosomatic? I mean, it can be, but once again, there's a lot of people that have this this condition here in this place. So it's interesting. It didn't feel like it's psychosomatic. It felt like, once again, like Judge Meadows said, this is not something that's supposed to happen to people. People are not supposed to live underground. Maybe some people are experiencing this, you know, deprivancy of sunlight, of normal oxygen, and it fucks up with their brain, and this is why they have this tremor. But once they're focused, and I can tell you from my own experience, like 5 years ago I had a kind of depression. I was really upset, didn't see the light in the end of the tunnel, and one of the things that helped me is to stay focused. I basically started to do everything, like, and this is one of the reasons I do a lot of things. I work, I do 2 YouTube channels, I have a family, and I'm like, I do some sport, and I always try to occupy myself because I'm kind of scared that I'm gonna come back to this point of my life when I was pretty much not in a good place. And obviously don't take my advice for it. If you have some kind of a clinical you know, condition, ask your doctor, ask a professional. But in my opinion, like what I did for myself, if I'm in a bad mood, the best medicine I have for it, even if I'm like bad in a mood, you know, like on steroids, which can be called depression, maybe not even a clinical one, but still a depression, being focused on something is very, very helpful. And this is something that we're seeing here on Paul Billings. He is focused, and he's, what is most important, he is completely in peace with himself. I know that at some point you're probably going to be tired from my life stories. This is not why you came to this place. I'm going to try to make it as short as possible, but usually I tell those stories because I want to drive the point to the, you know, to the end place, so everybody will understand. Now, when I was 25, 24, I had a small business with 2 partners, and it always made me feel like shit. Even though we made some money, I knew that we are advertising shitty products that are not helping people, that maybe sometimes are harming them. You know, like some kind of online investment thingies, you know, like casinos online and this kind of shit. So I was young, the money was good, but I wasn't able to sleep. Like every time I went to sleep, all the partying, all the alcohol, all the girls didn't help me to actually go to sleep in peace, because I knew that this is not something that my parents raised me to be. This is not the values I was raised into, and I was trying to invent every possible explanation to myself. I tried to give myself every possible excuse to actually continue that, and then when I stopped, a couple of months passed, and then I watched Lord of the Rings, because I rewatched the trilogy every couple of years. This is the best trilogy ever created in the history of humanity. And when I was doing this business, every time I was watching the Lord of the Rings, I had this bad feeling in my like here in this area, that if I at some point would meet somebody from the cast, or I would meet Tolkien, even though he's not alive, but you know, I was fantasizing about meeting my hero, I wouldn't be comfortable in saying what I do for a living. I would be ashamed about it. And when I was already not in there, and I was watching the, you know, like this favorite movie of all time, and I suddenly felt this peace inside of my, like, I don't know, maybe it's a heart, maybe it's soul, you call it any way you want. But this was the moment when I decided never again, no matter how much money is there, no matter who invites me, no matter, and many people, by the way, still called and they offered blah blah blah, let's do some shit. It's always no, because this kind of a peace of mind, being in peace with yourself, being in line with your own moral compass, this is a feeling that doesn't have a price. And we can see this on Paul Billings. He knew that he's on the wrong side of the history, if you can call it like that. He is with the bad people. Judge Meadows, Sims, Bernard, they are liars, they are manipulators, they are controlling the silo for their own goal, okay, for their own purpose. Even when they tell themselves all the possible excuses, all the possible explanations, they're still on the wrong side. And Paul knew that, and now when he's actually taking control of his life and he knows that he's doing what's right for the law, this is what he said to Knox and Shirley. I'm not on your side, I'm not on fucking Bernard's side, I'm on the side of the law. And when he makes this decision, he is completely in peace with himself, and this is why he doesn't have a tremor. And I know this is too much of explanation of this one small moment, but it's important to me, and I hope that when somebody who feels that this moment is as important to them as for me, they heard everything that I wanted to say. And now we're moving on. So we have, like, as I told you, maybe you have. And another interesting thing here in the TV show is that I just noticed this. Obviously I noticed this a while ago, but right now I'm making a connection. Every system here kind of looks the same. This is the system that Billings used, and this is the system that Lucas uses, so they are pretty much the same, which kind of allows whoever is in control to basically monitor all of the computers. So it's not only cameras that are following people. If you know the computer, if you have access to the supercomputer in the vault, you probably have access to everything that happens in those more primitive computers in the silo. So let's talk about the Cipher. Okay, now I need to take some breath. So I was a little bit stumbled here. And obviously I know about the Reddit threads, I know that some people are posting it like they are deciphered it, and I'm not saying I don't trust them completely, but it's like in high school. You know those math lessons when you just present the answer and the teacher tells you, what about the path? Show me how you actually got there. Now when you are presenting to me the code deciphered, but you're not explaining how you actually got there, I'm a bit suspicious. And once again, I'm not saying that you're lying, I'm not saying you're full of it, I'm not saying any of it, I'm just saying that please provide with an explanation how you actually did this. And I posted this on my Telegram channel, and I'm trying to get some answers. Now, what kind of basically, you know, like bugged me, and I spent yesterday, like most of the day yesterday, I was trying to figure this out. So let's go through it. We know that he is using scissor shift. Scissor shift, this is basically code when you take the letters of your sentence that you want to translate to somebody and you move every letter a couple of places. Let's say shift +2, which means that A will become C, B will become D, and so on and so on and so on. So when you get the shift, when you get the code and you know that you have to shift them back to letters, this is how you decipher it back. This is what Caesar apparently invented when he tried to transfer some messages from one general to another, and if this message is gonna be intercepted by, you know, enemy forces, they're not gonna be able to understand what the hell is going on, because it once again is deciphered like that. Obviously there's been a couple of minutes, you know, since Caesar was operating, and this code developed in many different variations. So like, let's see what Lucas tried to do here. He is basically saying that this is a code that what's his name, what's his face, you know, the 140 years ago IT guy, he has kind of vampire name. So yeah, this is a Queen's code, and what he did here is he reversed the alphabet and made the shift +3. So what do you mean reversed alphabet? So A becomes Z, B becomes Y, C becomes X, and so on and so on and so on. And then you move them 3 letters forward. So let's say you have, like in original you have A, then it becomes Z, and you move them 3 letters forward, so A, B, C. So it's supposed to be C. And this is how you can reverse this code to the original one. But there is a problem here that basically broke my brain, and I really hope that I'm doing something wrong here, and maybe somebody who is way more, you know, like familiar with math and, you know, decoding things is gonna explain to me why I am wrong. And it's not just, you know, the creators are basically didn't put so much effort, they just put some letters there, and, you know, like everybody's gonna completely ignore it, we're not gonna put any effort on it. I doubt it, because so far they were pretty meticulous and their details. So another interesting thing here is basically when he says the next iteration after the 3 letters, is 10 letters shift. This is where they discovered that there is a word Ellie, which was Queen's daughter. So we have two different iterations here. We have reversed shift plus 3 and we have reversed shift plus 10. So it means that the difference between those letters, if we take the same sentence from two different iterations, the difference between the letters is supposed to be 7, right? Plus 3 plus 10. Even if he did like the second iteration on the previous one, so it's either like plus 3 then plus 13, so it's plus 10, and it makes 13 letters difference. But no matter how many times I try to count from like B to N, it doesn't make it 13, especially like with the rest of the letters. But when you actually compare those two sentences with each other, there is the same difference of letters between each and every one of them, so it means they put some thought in those kind of a codes. It's not just random letters that they just put for the TV show and whatever is gonna happen. No, they put some thought there. But once again, why there is no 7-letter difference between, you know, B and N here, when B is shift plus 3 and N is shift plus 10? This is not working in my brain, because once again we can count the difference between the letters and then we can see the connection between them, but it still doesn't help us, because then we don't know if we can count 3 from B here and, you know, do the reverse part of the alphabet to actually get the original code, because once again I cannot see if I can trust what Lucas is saying here. We can see that the sentences are similar, the words have the same amount of letters in them, the difference between the letters is the same, but if we are taking into consideration what Lucas is saying, and it's supposed to be plus 3 plus 10, the difference is supposed to be 7 between the letters, and it's not 7, and it's really fucking me up, because I wanted to decipher it back, you know, I wanted to see the original code. If you want to decipher it, if you want to have any chance to decipher this, you need to have the original code. You cannot decipher Lucas's iteration. Maybe you can if you're like some kind of amazing deciphering guy, and if you are, please write in the comments. I would love to hear what you think about it. So yeah, you know, like this is something that really bugged me. And by the way, since we're talking about it, since we're talking about Ellie, there is a different variation of scissor shift, and it's called visionary shift. It's some kind of a French guy probably, and I usually am not very good in pronouncing French names. I used to date a French girl, and once she sent me a message like, there is a Marguerite is coming to visit me, and I was like young and a jealous guy. I was in love with this girl, and I was like, who is this Marguerite who is coming to see you right now? And it's basically Margot. It was her like cousin, sister cousin. So yeah, I'm not very good in pronouncing French names, but still, you understand the concept. If you don't, I still didn't explain to you. The concept is basically, since scissor shift is if you understand what is the amount of the shifts that you're doing on each and every letter, as soon as you know the number, it's so easy to decipher this code. So what Visionaire did here, he basically said if you have like a code word, like for example, maybe it's Ellie, maybe it's Silo, maybe it's the Pact, maybe it's whatever, and then like every letter symbolize there how many times you're supposed to move the letter. So let's say it's Ellie, so you take Ellie in front of every letter that you have in the code. So let's say if Visionaire here is the code, I would put Ellie, 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 and that way I would know how many times I should shift every letter to make it back, like to the original message. So yeah, it's a more complicated, and I think that this is maybe what Bernard meant when he said there is a code in the code. You need to have like a code word or code, maybe even code sentence that will help you to decipher the whole message. And this is why when you actually check the, you know, Lucas's iteration, you have some words that have 2 letters. Words with 2 letters is something that obviously happens in English language, but usually it's not the same letter. It's not like there is a word that's BB or II. So yeah, probably every letter needs to have a different amount of shifts, and this is why it's probably more smart to use here the Visionaire cipher. And this is probably why, you know, like Bernard is gonna actually introduce Lucas to this legacy, and he makes him his shadow. And by the way, it's not because he wants Lucas to be his shadow, it's once again because Lucas is not gonna be his shadow for too long. A couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks, until he basically stops being useful for Bernard, and then he's gonna be sent back to the mines, or he's just gonna be killed, thrown from the stairs. It's not something uncommon in the silo. Now this is once again when we started to think that maybe this whole legacy is actually a supercomputer. This computer maybe is not even capable to run the systems and the programs that are needed to use those more advanced deciphering systems like the Divisionaire and other things here. So this is why he needs to introduce him to the legacy. I told you, I still hope those are some people that eat caviar and watch like movies from the 90s when everybody else don't have access for that, but most likely it's some kind of a system. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know there was a lot of that some people call water. This is not what you actually came here for, but I still hope you enjoyed this video. If you watched until this moment and you didn't enjoy, I'm still very thankful that you watched until this moment, and I hope you will give me a chance to impress you in my next videos. If you did enjoy this video, you can support it in any way or shape possible. You can like, you can subscribe, you can comment. If you don't feel like it, once again, just by watching this video until this moment, you did everything that I could ever ask you for. Thank you so much for it, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye!